Consumer inflation continues to rise. How are these pricing pressures affecting companies? Brian Sozzi, out at that Goldman Sachs tech conference, interviewed ZoomInfo founder and CEO Henry Schuck to get some insight on what he's seeing in the B2B landscape amid the broader market meltdown.
What we're focused on today, our customers are all business-to-business customers, and they sell to other businesses, so we're more insulated from what's happening in the broader economy, but not immune. And so what we're seeing from our customers is there's a new level of scrutiny on investments, that there's another checkpoint to get deals through, another stop at procurement, or even a CFO to sign off on new deals and new spending. That is elongating sales cycles for us, and I think for a lot of our customers and our peers. But ultimately what we're seeing is that these deals are still closing. And so the deals that slipped from Q2, we're seeing come in Q3, but there is more prioritization on spend. What we hear from our customers, what we hear software companies saying in the public market says, hey, we're going to prioritize spend really closely, but when it comes to anything that generates demand, or our sales teams or our go-to-market teams, we're not going to touch that. We're going to leave that alone. And so we are seeing that manifest in how these deals then come to fruition in a subsequent quarter.
Sounds like a lot more emails, a lot more Slack messages to get a deal done.
Yes,
wow.
So it's a bit more work to get a deal done.
I'm sure. So does that change how you run the company and how you fire up the sales force? Do you have to retrain the sales force, new sales tactics? How do you think about it?
Yeah, it does, actually. And so one of the things that we're doing is, if you go back to 2021, a lot of our talk track with our customers, who are all sales and marketing teams at companies that sell to other businesses, was, look, there's so much opportunity out in the marketplace today. You should buy ZoomInfo so you make sure that you're in front of all of this opportunity that's happening. Today, that talk track has transformed a bit to, look, you have a certain number of heads on the field. Maybe you paused hiring or you cut back. And so now you have a more limited amount of salespeople who are responsible for generating new business for your company. Let's make sure we get as much out of every single one of those salespeople as possible. Let's give them the tools and the software and the resources to be really productive and really efficient with their work. That's just a different set of messaging that lands differently today than it would have landed in 2021, when my focus was all on how do I grow as fast as possible. Today the focus is how do I get the most out of every single one of the resources I have at my company.
How do you think this business climate shapes up for 2023? You think it'll be a little bit easier to get a deal done?
I do think it'll be easier in 2023. One of the things that we've seen between Q2 and Q3 is the rate of change has stabilized. So in Q2, what you saw was like people didn't know what was going to happen, what all this talk about the macroeconomic environment was going to mean for their businesses, and whether they should just stop spending on everything. That was a lot like what happened at the front end of COVID. You had these stay-at-home orders come out, and companies went, oh, I don't know what's going to happen, so I'm not going to spend any money on anything. You saw a little bit of that happen in Q2, and the rate of change was fast. In Q3, that's largely stabilized. And so what I don't think it gets worse from here. I only think it gets better as people become more and more accustomed to this is the universe that we're going to live in, and what the macroeconomic change and difference means for their businesses.
One thing I was reminded at from this Goldman conference is how much is on the plate of leaders, CEOs, CFOs, investor relations teams, you name it. What's your biggest priority for next year? You have a lot coming at you.
It's a great question. I think our biggest priority today is, number one, to make sure our customers are getting as much as possible out of our solution. That those customers who come to us and invest in productivity for their sales teams, invest in productivity for their go-to-market teams, that we're delivering that for them. The best way to deliver that for them is to make sure we have the best team possible, the best team of employees, that attrition rates are low, that engagement is high. And so I think we're focused on delivering as much value to our customers by enhancements to the product, but also by making sure we have the best employees at ZoomInfo who are delivering for them.
I was trying out the platform. Where do you get this data from?
A number of different places, but we have two really robust contributory networks that share data into the platform, and then we have a robust machine learning and AI-based algorithm that makes sense of all of the data that it sees from literally millions of different sources, and then publishes the most accurate data on companies and the buying decision makers at those companies in the platform.
All right, fair enough. Look, the Yahoo Finance viewers, they know you, they've gotten to know you, you've come on a good bit during the pandemic. First time, I think, you were on with us really at the height of the pandemic. Just looking back, what have you learned as a leader during this 2.5+ year process?
Yeah, interesting. First, I would tell you that before the pandemic started, if you asked me if I thought work from home was something that made sense, I was a hard no. And I think that what I learned in the pandemic was that these different models can work. We saw productivity increase when our employees went
We didn't grow
from
up like
home.
this.
Yeah, we did it.
We went
5
to the
days a
office.
week.
We wanted the boss to see us.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a different world, and employees are not going to come back 5 days a week, especially in tech. What I think is important is that we do highlight the value of being in person, to collaborate, to meet our colleagues, to learn. It is really hard to learn new concepts and new ideas from home behind a screen. And so getting some in-person time with your team, with your boss, with your enablement coaches, I think that's really important. But I definitely learned that work from home can be a strategy that works in the long term.
That was Yahoo Finance's Brian Sozzi and ZoomInfo founder and CEO Henry Schuck.